All right, we are live. This is Sound Booth Theater Live, and these are part 4 of the cold reads of Everybody Loves Large Chests, Volume 11, TOL-SAROTH. Thanks for coming, everybody. Good to see you guys. Give us a shout out in the chat if you want me to say hi. Glad to be back at it. I'm really loving narrating Everybody Loves Large Chests again, and yeah, I can't wait to get started some more, get some more done today. So right now I'm just wrapping up another project. I'm about to upload it to Teams so that Jessica Threet can pick it back up. Working on a book called Riftside by Cassius Lang. I don't remember. Is it Cassius and someone else? It's another. I think it's he partnered with another author. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, Justin Thomas James is narrating this one. He's doing a really cool uh, weapon character voice. Sounds like a very evil cookie monster, which I'm very excited about. I hope you guys have been having a good week. What's up, Ghost Pyra, Kimberly, Dan the Toon Man? Dan the Toon Man, thanks for coming. I don't think I've seen you here before, but welcome. Are you a musician, Dan the Toon Man? Or is this like tuning cars? Tuning other things. What's up, Water Kangaroo? I'm drinking energy there. What's up, Raylo90? Let's see here. Let's see if I can go ahead and start a Instagram stream as well. Let's get us going here. Public, next. Copy stream key. I hate that Instagram makes us jump through these hoops. There we go. In order to just stream there. Connect streaming software to go live. All right, I just did it. Let's see. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna give me the option to go live now? Here we go. Boom! We are live on Instagram now as well. All right, Ryan Clark, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Just a lover of music, says Dan the Toon Man. All right, Amanda Marshall, I finally made it to one of these. Thanks for coming, Amanda. Really appreciate it. I'll get started here very soon once I tell Jessica Threet that this set is ready for her. All right. And let's get this started. First of all, right before I get started, I just want to remind you guys that Sound Booth, our new platform, is up and running, working better than ever before. We have, there's a good chance we're going to be moving some of the later volumes of Everybody Loves Large Chests to our platform, Sound Booth. So be sure to check it out and see if you like it. Scaffed, Small Chests Are Fine Too, the spin-off of Everybody Loves Large Chests, is already there. Ryan Clark says, I'm loving the new app. Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys, I'm glad you like it. I'd love more comments about the app in the chat here. We did have an overheating and battery drain issue when we first launched, but that's been fixed now as far as I can tell. It's not done that on my phone since I picked up the new one. Took away the food warming feature. Yeah, that's true. That is a sacrifice we had to make. Apparently people were, just didn't think that being able to fry an egg on their phone was worth it. Sometimes features are ahead of their time. Maybe we can reincorporate it in a few years when people are more used to cooking things with their phone. But Anyway, yeah, Small Chester Find 2 is already on the platform. If you want to check out what it's like, that's a great place to start. We have both the classic audiobook and the cinematic audio available on our platform. So if you just want Dory Sax's read with some with some supporting characters, then just go the classic audiobook route. But if you want the full cast sound effects and music experience uh, like the later productions of Everybody Loves Large Chests, you can get the cinematic version. It's 7 episodes. First episode's free, by the way. So if you want to hear the difference, there's really no risk involved. You pick up the audiobook, listen to the first part of chapter 1 or first chapter, and then go listen to the cinematic version and determine whether the rest of the cinematic experience is worth it. Ryan Reed says, it's the only app that Jeff lets me listen to when he locks me in my booth. That's true. When you work for Sound Booth Theater, we take your phones and we wipe all the apps off. We lock them, and the only app that is available on the phones of people who work for Sound Booth Theater is the Sound Booth app. So they are digitally enslaved to us. So it's a new policy for the company, but I think despite some of the complaints we're getting from staff, I think it's a good new policy that's making sure that they become cult members as well. So Reese Gore says, it's way easier to navigate, very user-friendly. Thank you. Ryan Clark says, hey, Jeff, if you want, I can record my cat Fizzy doing cat noises for you. Please do. If you want to check out more from Neven Iliev, The Stars Have Eyes is a full cinematic series. It's, in my opinion, even better than Everybody Loves Large Chests, if you guys can believe that. Everybody Loves Large Chests is about a sociopathic monster going on a rampage, but Stars Have Eyes is about a sociopathic monster trying to learn to become more human. It's heartwarming, it's wholesome, it's funny, it's really hilarious. They have great characters, and we have the full Sound Booth Theater cast lending their voices to many of the characters. And my favorite part, actually, though, is the music. We produced a lot of great stuff to use as the background. I'm sure you guys will probably recognize some of the tunes that we used, hopefully. But yeah, guys, check it out. The full series is only $24.99, I believe, 15 episodes. If you want to try it out before you purchase, the whole first episode is free. So check out that first episode. If you're not sold, I get it, but I doubt that'll be the case. It is an incredible first episode. It's really hilarious, and it's really got a hook to it. So, guys, check out the Sound Booth app. Pick up, there's lots of other LitRPG content. There's lots of different types of content than LitRPG as well. One of my favorite productions that we've done on there in a while, which was just an audiobook, is called Identity Theft. That's narrated by Annie Ellicott. And it's about a woman who finds out someone used her credit card to order DoorDash. And because the FBI won't investigate it, she decides to do it instead. It's a romp, it's ridiculous, and I think you guys would get a kick out of it. So, let's move on to Everybody Loves Large Chests, Volume 11. What the hell? Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. I messed up the files. I messed up the files. I messed up, guys. Sorry. Fuck. I don't have time for this right now. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. This is not even my fault. Okay. There we go. Files, editors folder, old. Let's move this up to editors folder. No, wait, that needs to go away. That's set to. This needs to go in here. Okay, sorry guys. Kinky, cult. I'll totally do that for you if you want. And yes, I named her after Fizzy Rustblood, and her name is Boxy. And her mom is Boxy. Got it. I'm gonna go listen right now. That was hilarious. It made me crave margaritas. What was hilarious? All right, what is going on here? I'm having very bad upload speeds. Ah, you liked that one. I'm glad you bought it. Did you leave a review? I'd love it if you left a review. All right. Got ELLC up again. Okay. We are at part 5 of chapter 1. If you guys don't remember, where we left it was Boxy, as Keira failed his test to get into the Flamespitter clan? Flamespitter company? I don't remember exactly how he words it. By accidentally blowing himself up, and Dory. Fizzy had to rescue him, and accidentally fucked up, what's her name? Jessie Wick. So it was a pretty fun last part that we did. Let's see how far we can get today. Oh, let me get out of this stupid ass chair. Chairs are stupid. God damn it, I hate chairs. Okay, let's see here. Tilt it up a little. And I can present. Here it is. All right. Part 5. Keira awoke with a sharp yell. She frantically looked around, quickly realizing she was in the Red Bolt Dynamics infirmary. All right, let's do this. The compound was a hotbed for workplace injuries, so their medical facility was well prepared. The shelves and cupboards were loaded with magic items and potent medicines, allowing the medics on duty to... Sorry, guys. Just gotta tell them that it's uploaded now. The shelves and cupboards were loaded with magic items and potent medicines, allowing the medics on duty to immediately treat any injury or condition that their spells weren't sufficient for. There were several beds with Artificer-made monitoring equipment to keep a close eye on long-term patients. It was more of a sick bay than a hospital, so privacy was minimal. The only thing separating Keira's resting place from the others was a set of slightly transparent curtains. The clinically white drapes were pulled aside as a The only thing separating Keira's resting place from the others was a set of slightly transparent curtains. The clinically white drapes were pulled aside as a rose-nosed dwarf woman... The clinically white drapes were pulled aside as a rose-nosed dwarf woman with brunette braids rushed in. She and the redhead locked eyes for a few tense moments before a much shinier face joined the portly woman. Okay. So, let's establish an ambience. Okay. Magda Redbolt. Okay, who else do we have that can do Scottish? I wonder if Jessica Threet can do Scottish. Any of you guys ever listen to audiobooks with Jessica Threet? Finally up, huh? Fizzy smiled. How do you feel? Like crap. Who's this? Ah,
Magda Redbolt, ma'am.
The dwarf bowed.
Sorry for barging in. I wasn't expecting you up and about so soon.
About?
Huh? What do you mean? Actually, what am I doing here? You had a rather dangerous accident. I did. What kind of accident? The explosive kind. You really cocked up the old man's test. Test? You mean Red Bolt's exam?
No, it says dwarf. The dwarf bowed. Rose-nosed dwarf woman. Brunette braids.
Yeah. What else? But I didn't even start yet. Ah, that's unfortunate. Ah, that's unfortunate. Ah, that's unfortunate.
Magda exclaimed. Magda exclaimed.
It would appear you've suffered some short-term memory loss, likely a concussion. No worries. I have something for that. Back in a bit.
The dwarf left the two outsiders alone, prompting Fizzy to lean in and whisper.
You really don't remember the last 2 days? 2 days? I was out for that long? No, dumbass. The test took 48 hours, and you nearly made it to the end before you blew it. Oh. Right. Sorry. Head's a blur right now.
She rubbed her temple.
You're lucky you didn't get yourself killed. I told you not to try anything too flashy, but you just had to go for a gyroscopic... I told you not to try anything too flashy, but you just had to go for a gyroscopic stabilizer you barely knew anything about. I'd slap you for being an idiot if I wasn't worried I'd knock something else out of your thick skull.
Actually, let's do this. Sorry, just talking to Jessica Threet now because she's down. Let's go listen to Jessica Threet's Scottish. One second. Go ahead and change to, where is it? There it is. Sound, go to studio display speakers. Here we go.
Jessica Threet, Scottish accent. I went down into the grove to look at the flowers, and they smelled so sweet. The reds and purples bright against the green grass. It was perfect.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Ghost Pyra asks, if I was interested in learning to narrate and potentially eventually work with Sound Booth, do you have any starting tips? Starting tips are listen to yourself. First thing you need to do is you need to take your favorite book, sit in a closet, and read it to yourself out loud for an hour straight. This is Sean Allen Pratt's method for discovering whether or not this is something you actually want to do. So when you start off, obviously you're going to have minimal gear. You're going to have to find some small acceptable space for you to work in. You're going to have to get equipment, at least a nice, like a decent mic, and learn some digital audio workstations. But once you get started, if you read to yourself for an hour in a closet and you enjoyed doing it, start recording. And it doesn't matter what you're recording. Start with that book that you tried. Start with your favorite book. Don't try and get professional gigs immediately. Record your favorite book and listen to it and think about as a listener, are you enjoying yourself? If not, which is highly, highly likely, because, I mean, it took me 4 or 5 months to stop hating listening to myself and stop hating my own voice. Make adjustments. Think about how to make it sound better, more engaging, and keep practicing. Keep recording other books. If you really want to start working your professionalism muscles, get on ACX and start auditioning for royalty share projects that are probably not going to go anywhere. I mean, if you can find one that's going to do well, great, but you're probably not going to get hired fresh into trying it. Find something that you might be able to actually get as a beginner and start working with authors. But definitely practice on stuff that you like and figure out what your strengths are while you do it. This is a hard job. It's hard work. I'm hopefully sometime soon people will stop seeing it as a career that's just a job that they can, go from job to job and just get paid checks, for doing what you do, and instead it will become an art form, much like any other, like being an illustrator or like being a musician, narrator, audiobook narrator. I'm hoping will become something that's higher status when it comes to the arts, and you'll need to take on that attitude. So, Knit Nat Knock asks, do you know when the audiobook for Chrysalis 6 and 7 will be edited and released? No, because I haven't started narrating those yet. Okay, but I do have permission to cast Magda as Jessica Threet. Do we have Jessica Threet's colors here? Doesn't look like it. Stop with this running out of resources shit. All right. Dude, stop it. Okay, I need to restart this app. I need to restart Excel. Fuck off with this. Blind Man Brad the Otaku says something wonderful here. You guys are some of the best in the game. You make it truly an art form. As a blind person, it's some of the best content I've ever heard as an audio listener. I'm immersed. Thank you so much, Blind Man Brad. Really appreciate it. And I'm especially honored to be able to serve the blind, give them more entertainment that can seem exclusively for them. I think that's pretty cool. Let's see. Plus is also, that's supposed to be Dory. Lydia, okay. Paulman. Here we go. Okay. Let's go back to unit of audio. That's unsolo. Unsolo. There we go. The redhead curled up under her covers as the consequences of her mishap became clear. Magda returned moments later and handed her a vial of bubbling blue liquid that smelled suspiciously like rotting fish. The dwarf explained it was a mental stimulant that would clear up her cloudy memory and practically forced Keira to down the disgusting elixir. Boxy immediately wanted to vomit it back out, rip off the apothecary's head, and shove it up her own ass. It only barely resisted the homicidal urge. Blind Man says, I cannot wait for more of this book and more of the Dungeon Crawler Carl audio tunnel. Goated series, the both of them. Thank you, sir. Have you listened to Small Chester Fine 2 in cinematic?
That's a good girl,
Magda encouraged her.
How do you feel now?
Fizzy is a menace. You are correct. All right, what color do we want to give Jessica Threet? How about this one? Kind of a lipstick color.
Like I just had a whale shit in my mouth. The
beastkin stuck her tongue out. And this should be Magda.
Aye, this stuff's as vile as medicine gets. How's your memory? Crystal clear.
The events of the past 2 days came back to the shapeshifter in full force and with exceptional clarity, and it was pretty sure that wasn't legendary intelligence at work. It instantly figured out the device in its back was to blame for the near-fatal experience. It had some choice words for Fizzy regarding her herpes, but that... It had some choice words for Fizzy regarding her herpes, but that talk would have to wait. Ghost Pyra says, thank you, I will try it. I'm looking eventually to get away from the daily grind, doing stuff I don't like, and moving into something I enjoy to do. Well, here's to you being successful on that. You just gotta keep working on it, and don't delude yourself. That's the one thing. I think actors are often delusional people. So just be careful. I don't know if you consider yourself an actor or not. If not, that's probably a better place to start. I think it's better to fall into acting than it is to start off wanting to be an actor. Because then you don't have to deal with the common character issues that come with being an actor.
Good, because Mr. Redbolt said he'd like to speak with you as soon as you're able. I sent word, so he should be here any minute. I see. What about the triplets? I told them to stay behind and make themselves useful. They should still be cleaning up your mess. They should still be helping clean up your mess.
Okay, that's supposed to be Magda as well. Good, because Mr. Redbolt said. Good, because Mr. Redbolt said he'd like to speak with you as soon as you're able. I sent word, so he should be here any minute. Huh? How long was I out? 98 minutes and 35 seconds. Not that I was counting. Is that good or bad? The redhead looked to the dwarf.
Good, definitely. Rule of thumb is if you wake up the same day, you'll probably be fine. I'm surprised you got knocked out at all, given how hardy you veteran adventurers usually are. Though, it's probably a good thing you were passed out when you were brought in here. Oh, why's that? We had to, dig some shrapnel out of you. I'm not going to name names, but a certain someone used magic to close your wounds without removing the foreign objects first. Trust me, you don't want to know what that feels like.
What did I... Alright, I'm gonna make something real quick.
I already do, unfortunately.
Fizzy guiltily averted her eyes as she realized Boxy must have been in terrible agony while it pretended to be unconscious. No wonder its memory was hazy. The mean look it occasionally flashed her after drinking the fish juice was well-deserved. Good news, the danger had passed. Bad news, they still had to deal with the fallout. The unpleasant process began when Paulman Redbolt entered the infirmary along with 3 of his equally short assistants. The monstrous couple recognized the extras as the overseers that helped supervise the exam in shifts.
I see that hero title isn't just for show, he said. You really put the cat in catastrophic failure, don't you?
Oops.
Screw you, Baldy! If you're just here to rub it in, buzz off!
The old gnome blinked. The old gnome blinked a few times in confusion before letting out a dry guffaw. Let's see.
Good to see you're in high spirits, girlie. But you misunderstand. My intention was to praise, not belittle. Been a long time since I felt these old bones rattle like that. Whatever. I still failed.
Perhaps, though I suspect the incident was not entirely fruitless. Tell me, Miss Morgana, did you learn anything from it? The redhead raised an eyebrow. The gnome's measured tone of voice suggested it was a genuine inquiry rather than some rhetorical quip that would lead to an asinine platitude like, "Haste makes waste." Indeed, though accidental, the shapeshifter had made a certain discovery that it would prefer to monopolize. Unfortunately, Keira wouldn't, and its commitment to the role... Unfortunately, Keira wouldn't, and its commitment to the role was too strong to stay quiet. Besides, it was hardly a groundbreaking revelation.
It would appear that Oppenhammer's ballistic gel formula has a much higher yield when triggered by an electric current.
So that's what happened in there. What are you asking, Dark Void? It was a hitherto unknown alchemical reaction. The explosive paste formula Keira used had been a... The explosive paste formula Keira used had been around for nearly 2 decades, yet no one had thought to electrocute it to see what would happen. Turns out, doing so nearly doubled its explosive force. The exact details were a mystery at present, though it would later be discovered that the triggering current had to have a... The exact details were a mystery at present, though it would later be discovered that the triggering current had to have a very specific magnitude. Keira's accident was a 1 in 1,000 occurrence, which was hardly a surprise considering her patron's nature. Keira's accident was a 1 in 1,000 occurrence, which was hardly a surprise considering her patron's nature.
I appreciate your sacrifice and contribution to the Flamespitter discipline, Miss Morgana. I appreciate your sacrifice and contribution to the Flamespitter discipline, Miss Morgana.
Paulman flatly stated. Unfortunately, as you did not succeed in completing my trial, I must decline your request for job advancement.
Ah, there it is.
Crap. Boxy's attempt to get what it wanted the nice way ended in failure, but that didn't mean it would leave empty-handed. Though it was a pain in the ass that would raise some suspicions... Though it was a pain in the ass that might raise some suspicions, it had no choice but to implement Though it was a pain in the ass that might raise some suspicions, it had no choice but to implement Plan B. Fizzy would probably object, but this whole debacle was her fault, really.
However, Red Bolt continued, I'm inclined to offer you a different deal.
The old gnome presented the hospitalized beastkin with a contract. As with all kingdom documents, it was laden with fine print and verbose wording as confusing as it was specific. Thankfully, it was a relatively simple agreement that only took a few minutes to decipher. It was, essentially, a trade offer. Paulman Redbolt would make Keira Morgana a Flamespitter Artificer if the latter party forfeited the intellectual property rights of her accidental discovery to Redbolt Dynamics. The agreement had some long-reaching ramifications, but they boiled down to some kingdom-specific legal nonsense involving patents. Internally, Boxy had no reason to decline. It wasn't as if some stupid legality would stop it from researching and replicating the reaction in private. Its public persona had no issues with it either. It wasn't Keira's style to take credit for something she stumbled upon by sheer accident. It was a no-brainer. A few hours later, the redhead was back on her feet, the contract bore her signature, and Red Bolt stood on a stepladder. They were situated in the same test chamber as before, the remnants of Keira's handiwork still very much visible. The metal walls were still scorched, the observation deck's glass remained cracked, and the concrete floor had a small crater. It was honestly hard to tell which was more impressive, the room's relative integrity, the blast that put it in such a sorry state, or the girl that survived it point blank. Most would find this a questionable spot to hold Keira's advancement ceremony, but Paulman was of the opposite mind. Was there a better place to prepare for the future than amidst the ashes of past mistakes? Maybe, but he had other things to do, and this seemed fitting enough. A glowing, blue, mist-like substance flowed forth from the old man's skin into the redhead's cranium like mist soaking into a sponge. The Artificer job has advanced to Flamespitter Artificer. The maximum level of your Flamespitter Artificer job has been increased to 75. Congratulations, Miss Morgana, he smirked, and welcome to the club. There was a small round of applause and cheers from the gathered audience. The onlookers gathered in a small semicircle around the newly appointed Flamespitter. They saluted the occasion with a sporadic burst from whatever lighter, flamethrower, or other incendiary device they had on hand, filling the air with a multicolored array of conflagrations and smoke. Jess was among them as well. Though she took a surprise shock from Fizzy during the incident, the blondie had woken up shortly after Keira, seemingly none the worse for wear. However, the gnome now seemed even more obsessed with the golem, going as far as rubbing her cheek against the construct's shoulder and reveling in the constant zaps she received in turn. It would appear the experience had, in a manner of speaking, unlocked a new fetish. Boxy pretended not to notice, though Fizzy was not as forgiving and put the meat bag in her place with a finger flick to the forehead that felt like a kick. Impromptu ceremonies out of the way, Keira went to check on the triplets. Yeah. Congratulations, Keira. Oh my god, that's so exciting for you. Woo! Yeah! New Flamespitter!
Good work. Good work, lassie. All right. Couldn't have happened to a better. Couldn't have happened to a better person. Fantastic work! Oh my goodness!
You did it! Yay! What's up, Bill Underbridge? Good to see you.
How are you three holding up?
You sure you should be asking us that? You sure you should be asking us that? Robin stated the obvious. You almost turned into a blood smear.
Yeah. So?
So? How can you just stare death in the face and then act like nothing happened? You did the same thing back in Azurevale.
I agree.
Lydia backed her up.
I understand you live dangerously, but such experiences must take their toll. Oh, they do. Trust me. I'm gonna need a lot of de-stressing after this. Thankfully, I have someone special back home to help with that, so I'm really not all that bothered. You'll understand once you find someone. Well, maybe not you, misbreed me. Maybe not you, misbreed me, but there's hope for the other two.
Done with work for the day. That's awesome. I love getting off early on Fridays. The eldest sibling pouted and crossed her arms while her sisters had a light giggle at her expense.
I'm more interested to hear what you girls thought of this weird place. Oh!
Madeline raised her hand.
I thought the fireworks they showed us yesterday were awesome. One of the engineers even gave me this neat gift, see?
She pulled out a small wooden cube with a crank lever on one side and gave it a few turns, prompting a tiny carving of a gnome on the end of a spring to pop out of the top. Boxy was initially confused why the figurine was bent over with its butt pointing forward, but that mystery was promptly resolved when it made a disturbingly realistic sound of passing gas. Let me do that myself, actually. There we go. There you go.
It's a fart in the box!
Maddie declared with a giggle.
Fun, isn't it?
The others stared at the offensive toy for a few seconds before silently, unanimously agreeing to forget they saw anything.
My favorite part was when they let me ride that thingy.
Robin carried on.
My favorite part was when they let me ride that thingy. What was it called? Motorcycle or something? Anyway, I don't know why, but the way it rumbles and roars between my legs is very satisfying. Makes me feel powerful, you know? I don't approve of this place at all, to be honest.
Lydia seemed less than thrilled.
It's loud, it's messy, and the air always stinks of burning, not to mention the whole random explosions thing. It's a miracle those gnomes haven't wiped themselves off the map. Not for a lack of trying, either. Still, it's important to keep in mind that people like them serve an important purpose. They take risks to push the boundaries of what is known instead of wallowing in the familiar and simply going through the motions. Without passionate idiots like these, the world would be a very dull and dreary place.
Like these, huh? Lydia raised her eyebrow.
What? Aren't you one such idiot? Watch it, Missy.
The redhead raised a finger.
Just because you have a point doesn't mean you get to smart. Just because you have a point doesn't mean you get to smart-mouth me. Noted. Now then, go get some sleep. It's already quite late, and we're leaving first thing in the morning. Make sure you bring plenty of writing implements, as you'll be writing an essay on what you learned on this little field trip.
Naturally, the prospect of homework wasn't well received, but the triplets knew better than to complain. They trudged off to their quarters, and Keira went back to hers with Fizzy, giving the monster a chance to check on its familiar. Okay. Claws! It mentally called out. How are things on your end? How are things on your end? Good afternoon, O Master of the Sound Booth. Hope you're having a good day. Also hope you're having fun playing with your chesticles. Had to put this one on my list, both to read and listen to. Gnomes rule. Thanks, Frank DeShane. Appreciate it.
Not very good, Master.
She sheepishly replied.
All the secure areas are underground, and I can't breach any without leaving a trace.
Damn. Snack?
This worthless slut fared no better. This worthless slut fared no better. These nutjobs are somehow more scatterbrained than normal gnomes, so my Dreamweaver skill didn't even... These nutjobs are somehow more scatterbrained than normal gnomes, so my Dreamweaver skill didn't get anything useful.
The two demons were instructed to quietly scour the facility for any classified blueprints, experimental designs, or rare materials that might be lying around. However, the industrious midgets guarded their secrets well. Physical and magical security measures were one thing, but Snack's failed mental manipulation was surprising. Red Bolt must have arranged for his employees to receive specialized training to bolster their subconscious resistance to psychic probing. Either that or their thoughts were so full of explosions and engines that there was little room for anything else. Whatever the case, it seemed impossible to access their secrets without leaving an obvious trail. Whatever the case, it seemed impossible to access their secrets without leaving an obvious trail, which, considering the group of outsiders present, would raise some unwelcome suspicions. Oh well, the shapeshifter sighed mentally. I got what I needed, so let's leave it at that. Boxy already had one close shave today, and didn't want to test its luck by provoking a second.
Master, if I may be so bold,
The djinn spoke up.
why not simply ask to see their secret projects?
Now that you mention it, I probably should. Gnomes were inherently curious creatures, a trait Boxy shared. All the employees it interacted with seemed to have a favorable opinion of Keira, which was hardly surprising since she was designed to be universally likable. It wouldn't be too difficult to pry into their private affairs under the guise of exchanging ideas. Sure enough, the words, "So, what are you guys working on?" barely got out of the redhead's lips before she was dragged into a firing range and given a prototype quad-chambered rocket launcher. That led to an hours-long brainstorming session that Fizzy, not wanting to be left out, also joined in. The Flamespitters seemed less willing to share with her since they much preferred the company of one of their own. Indeed, though she was a total stranger until a few days ago, the locals already considered Keira part of their little oilhead community. By the time midnight rolled around and the security team practically forced the Artificers to break it up, Boxy had acquired a treasure trove of designs, concepts, and formulas. Granted, it had only seen fleeting glances at the actual blueprints and calculations, but it would have... Granted, it had only seen fleeting glances at the actual blueprints and calculations, but it would have plenty of time to jot those down later thanks to its legendary intelligence. It also discreetly pocketed a few samples of scourged orichalcum that Red Bolt's people had subjected to an experimental treatment called enrichment. It now had a much better idea what Jess had in mind for that shopping list she gave Keira a week ago and used that knowledge to convince her to cough up those super-secret plans of hers. God damn it. It now had a much better idea what Jess had in mind for that shopping list she gave Keira a week ago and used that knowledge to convince her to cough up those super-secret plans of hers. The monster was looking forward to returning home and trying out all these new and exciting ways to make things go boom. Unfortunately, it first had to sit through another lengthy trip that felt even duller than the first. While its stay at Red Bolt Dynamics HQ had been fruitful and productive, following it up with another period of forced idleness was especially frustrating. Worst of all, it wouldn't have to suffer through all this drudgery if not for those triplets. Keeping its cool was harder than ever since it was even more paranoid about getting exposed than usual, but it kept reminding itself it wouldn't have to bear with those burdens for much longer. Its plan to get rid of Teresa's crotch goblins was nearing fruition, and focusing on that thought made the trip just Its plan to get rid of Teresa's crotch goblins was nearing fruition, and focusing on that thought made the trip just a tiny bit more bearable. Fuck! Its plan to get rid of Teresa's crotch goblins was nearing fruition, and focusing on that thought made the trip just a tiny bit more bearable. In particular, it started worrying about the Nephilim's weird connection to the beyond and their ability to converse with demons on the other side in their dreams. Boxy initially allowed this, since they were still banned from spilling the beans by the god of uncertainty, but it was now reconsidering that stance. It could no longer allow such a monumental security risk when it was this close to achieving level 50 doppelganger. So, in the interest of not fucking up just before the finish line again, it started cooking up some So, in the interest of not fucking up just before the finish line again, it started cooking up some shenanigans. It started by slipping a few drops of extract from the widow's sorrow mushroom into the girls' dinner. A few days of horrible nightmares might convince them to rethink their stance about dream-talking with the Beyond's malicious entities. A few days of horrible nightmares might convince them to rethink their stance about dream-talking with the Beyond's malicious entities, which was technically all of them. It didn't work as planned. The substance was supposed to be a powerful hallucinogenic that would make anyone have a horrible trip, but these three god-spawned anomalies actually slept like bricks. Whether it was some weird side effect of their race or one of the Pantheon's blessings, they didn't dream at all. Rather than terrorize them, they actually ended up enjoying the secret supplement. Apparently, not having a bunch of demons blabber on the entire night resulted in the most restful slumber they'd ever had. Boxy could relate. More importantly, it provided an opportunity. After a week of subtle manipulation and persistent gaslighting, Keira convinced the girls they deserved to rest undisturbed by the Beyond's attention-starved residents. She gave them her empty head juice recipe and made them promise to drink it regularly before bed. While far from a permanent solution, they'd hopefully stick with it long enough to avoid any leaks until the wedding in a few months. That was the original intent, but Agent of Chaos decided it needed to work overtime and get involved in the process. The increasing frequency with which it triggered was more... The increasing frequency with which it triggered was more involved... The increasing frequency with which it triggered was more than a little concerning, considering Boxy had a few long-term plans in play. On the upside, this latest... On the upside, this latest activation finished without any immediate ramifications, so the shapeshifter decided to declare this incident an FBP, future Boxy's problem. The shapeshifter honestly stopped counting the FBPs it set in motion over the years once... The shapeshifter honestly stopped counting the FBPs it set in motion over the years once that number reached 20. The shapeshifter honestly stopped counting the FBPs it set in motion over the years once that number reached 20. So far, none of those postponed consequences had caught up with it, so this latest batch likely wouldn't either. That business aside, the monster was greeted with some welcome news. Upon its return to Azurevale. Keira's homestead was restored to its former glory without any visible signs of the battle that decimated it. Rowana had yet to replace all the destroyed furniture, but having the comfortable and familiar space back was an honest relief. More importantly, there was a highly anticipated reply waiting for the redhead, which held the answer the monster within was counting on. The very next morning after their return to the city, the freshly brainwashed triplets were assembled in Keira's renovated living room to meet their new caretaker. Sup? Sup? No. Good morning, ladies. My name is Now Shoki, the current hero of magic. The boyish wolfkin introduced himself. The big, scary guy behind me is Kuro, my sworn brother and trusty bodyguard. Sup? He greeted them curtly.
Hello, I'm Lydia. The eldest sister bowed her head. These are Robin and Madeline.
Hey.
Hi.
While the girls tried to hide their disappointment, it was fairly obvious that Lunar's chosen hadn't made a stellar first impression. Not through any fault of his own, though. Between Sigmund Law's smoldering intensity and Keira's harsh pragmatism, the triplets were expecting the hero of magic to be a touch more extreme than just some guy in a fancy robe. Now noticed they weren't all that thrilled, though he didn't let that bother him. He was quite aware he lacked the oomph of his more bombastic peers. Pleasure to finally meet all of you in person, he said, positively beaming. I've been looking forward to this moment for weeks. While the timing of this visit was convenient, it was anything but coincidental. Keira had sent a letter to her fellow hero a while ago asking him if he could tutor the triplets in the arcane arts much as he did for the redhead. However, recent events had prompted the catgirl to escalate her request from teacher to guardian. That letter she received yesterday confirmed Now would happily look after the Nephilim for the foreseeable future. There didn't seem to be any objections from the Pantheon side of things either. Honestly, it was a small miracle Teresa didn't step in and forcibly separate her daughters from Boxy after the way it handled them during the rogue cult situation. Unfortunately, her own hero was still busy handling matters on Velos, and Now was the next most appropriate caregiver candidate. Fuck. Unfortunately, her own hero was still busy handling matters on Velos, and Now was the next most appropriate caregiver candidate. I am really looking forward to learning more about each of you. Judging by his overwhelmingly positive attitude, he was almost as happy to have them as Boxy was to be rid of them. Though the shapeshifter couldn't be too gleeful on the surface.
Now?
Yes, Keira?
You remember you promised not to experiment on them, right?
Of course I do. Don't be silly. He brushed her off.
Then what's that weird thing poking out of your pocket?
Oh, just a thermometer. Surely there's nothing wrong with a few health checkups, yes?
I guess not.
The triplets couldn't help but feel some unease, especially with the now... The triplets couldn't help but feel some unease, especially with the way Now's lip twitched at the word experiment.
What about our tutors?
Lydia forcibly changed the topic.
We may have had to take a break, but there's a lot we can still learn from them.
Ah, yes, of course. Now leafed through a notebook. Yoshin Amidori, Damon Greymane, and Sareb Abedin. No worries, I've already reached out and made the necessary arrangements. They'll be joining us aboard the Endeavor.
What's the Endeavor?
Madeline asked. A flying ship I helped design.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Robin waved her hands around.
An actual flying ship?
Yep! It's quite the luxurious vessel. It'll be doing a cruise of the continent over the next few months, so I figured it would be the perfect way to get you three acquainted with all of Attica's colorful creatures.
Yes! This is gonna be awesome! I hope we get to visit the Bacanas Islands.
The youngest threw her fists in the air. Madeline bounced around happily. Oops, fuck, goddamn it. Madeline bounced around happily.
I heard their beaches are lovely this time of year. I suspect we'll meet plenty of strong, virile men, too.
Lydia said, with a dangerous glint in her eye. It legitimately warmed Now's heart. It legitimately warmed Now's heart to see the girls finally get excited, Their unrestrained, childlike glee was so infectious he couldn't help but get dragged into their pace. No, that wouldn't do. He lightly smacked his cheeks and tried to compose himself. If he wanted them to heed his teachings and respect his... If he wanted them to heed his teachings and respect his opinions, then he'd need to make a firm stance. That wasn't going to be easy if they had grown accustomed to Keira's harsh but fair teaching style. Now couldn't bring himself to be anywhere near that strict. Thankfully, he had backup.
All right. Calm down, you brats.
All right. Trying to remember exactly how Kuro sounded. What book is he from? Book 9? Looking him up. Chapter 4, Part 1. Oh, this is Justin. I forgot. Anything else in this track? Nope. Okay. JTJ is Kuro.
All right. Calm down, you brats.
Kuro growled.
It's just a boat. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Go on. Get your stuff ready. We have a forest gate to catch.
He followed the bubbling triplets up the stairs, leaving the two heroes alone.
Keira?
Now spoke after a moment of silence.
Yeah.
Ooh, what did Lydia mean when she spoke about meeting strong, virile men?
She's a bit, obsessed with propagating the Nephilim species.
That's only natural, isn't it? Being the first of their kind and all.
Oh, absolutely, but she takes it too far. She wants hundreds of babies.
Hundreds? Really?
Yeah, and her standards for father material are dropping by the day. She even asked her tutor to, and I quote, breed her, even though they'd only known each other a few days.
How'd that turn out?
Damon abandoned her in the woods and nearly fled the country. Barely convinced him to give her another chance. They're cool now, but yeah.
Oh, dear. Are the other two like that?
Not really. Maddie flirts with everyone, but she only does it for fun. Robin's too focused on training to even think about that sort of stuff. I imagine neither would hold back if someone strikes their fancy, though. They're not big on hesitation.
That's good to know. Now's eyes were opened to a possibility he hadn't really considered before, one that he would not have had the confidence to pursue if he hadn't met Keira over 2 years ago. That said, it wasn't something he felt comfortable discussing with her, or saying aloud for that matter. But, well, suffice it to say, he'd be more than happy to step up if the Nephilim needed his help with that. He'd be more than happy to step up if the Nephilim needed his help with their population problem. Oh, now. Okay. 153, okay. Got a little bit more time. I think he'll be fine. Probably. All right, just got to finish some of these SFX notes. Huh. Lots of people have been coming and going on Instagram. That's pretty cool. Can anybody on Instagram speak up here? Sorry, book 11. Looks like I'm not getting the feed from Instagram to StreamYard. So I'll have to check Instagram once in a while. What's up? All right, CRod89 says knock knock. So I'll have to check back and forth between StreamYard and Instagram to see everybody's chat. Okay, let's see here. Started a new set. Interlude. What is it again? Interlude Guardian Angel. What's up, Natty Bass? Simon Dow's on Wallace? Mondo's on Wallace? Simon Dow Son Wallace? Thanks for coming. Natty Bass, good to see you. Corinne's Chapter Chatter. Are you a book Instagram reviewer person? That's what your name kind of reminds me of. Interlude. Guardian Angel. Thank you, book.marked Yash. Biash. Okay. Let's see if there's a Bjorn in book 9 or 10. Do you guys remember a Bjorn in ELLC? No Bjorn here. Later, Tristan. I don't see a Bjorn in the last two books. Let's try 8. There is a Bjorn somewhere. That's what you're saying. The Giant. Okay, so JTJ. That's what I thought. I love how there's so many characters that I'm not I'm not voicing. It's just so fun to have everyone teaming up on this book. I'll go ahead and take Trooper. Incoming!
A boulder-sized chunk of diseased flesh crashed on top of the Inquisition's ranks. Though most managed to get away, a few were trapped underneath. The others immediately surrounded the disgusting brown mass and showered it with fire and purification magic, causing it to shrivel and wither away into a harmless dust. The troops... The others immediately... Nope. The troops had only seconds to spare before the concentrated hunk of blight claimed the lives of the soldiers and transformed them into fearsome death knights. It was paramount they got rid of it as quickly as possible, so them crowding around it was precisely what the enemy was aiming for.
Another! Incoming! All right, let's make some... let's see. That'll be our ambience. Let's see, let's do this.
A second profane projectile came hurtling down on the same spot. The paladins and priests hesitated for a split second, torn between saving their trapped allies and preserving their own skin. Thankfully, a massive shadow passed overhead and relieved them of the burden of that
Thankfully, a massive shadow passed overhead and relieved them of the burden of that decision. "Fear not, friends!" the figure yelled down. "Bjorn is here for you!" Two loud stomps, a cloud of dust, and a wet thud later, they looked up to find a steel tower on legs had leapt between them and the enemy. "Ha ha ha! You're going to need more than that!" "Hey, Blind Justice, what's up?" Oh, thanks for listening to DCC book. Marked by Ash. Is what not allowed? Best recommendation I got last year. I bought the entire audiobook series that's published for my hubby for Christmas. He loves it too. Oh, so glad you guys enjoy it together. I'm recording in Ableton Live. Thank you, Jason. Oh, Jessica 3's here. So, for those of you who don't know, Jessica, I've decided to cast Jessica in this one. She's going to be able to play a dwarven doctor, though I'm not sure how big the role is because I'm reading it, everything cold. So, thanks for coming, Jessica. Good to see you. Let's see. Just a reminder for anyone who's here, if you haven't already, check out the Dungeon Crawler Carl audio immersion tunnel on the Sound Booth platform. That's right, we have our own app, our own market, and there's exclusive Sound Booth Theater content on it. One of those things is the Dungeon Crawler Carl audio immersion tunnel. It's a reboot of Book 1 in full audio drama form. That's me still playing Carl Donut, the AI, and Mordecai, but the rest of the characters recast as people from the Sound Booth Theater troupe, and of course full sound effects and music. So if you haven't already, go check out the first episode on Sound Booth. The first episode is free. So if you listen to it and you don't like it, no big deal. You've still got the audiobooks, but if you listen to it and love it, you can get the whole first season for, I believe, $21. And seasons 2 and 3 are coming out this year back to back. Those are books 2 and 3 in the audio immersion tunnel form. All right, let's see. The 3-meter-tall man laughed heartily as he shook the sticky meat boulder from his equally gigantic tower shield. Clad head to toe in battered metal plating with decorative horns poking out of his helmet and shoulders, it would be easy to mistake Bjorn for a fiend. However, even those imposing demons would find it impossible to reach the size of this man. He was an absolute unit, even by giant standards. Leader 88 says, "Who is your favorite character to voice? Love your work, man. Keep it up." Thank you. It would be Carl. I think that if you're asking about Dungeon Crawler Carl specifically. Need to make a sound effects note. Wet thud is giant flesh blob hitting huge metal shield. There we go.
Onward, friends, he encouraged them. Take heart and stand behind Bjorn!
Those few simple words were all the Inquisition troops needed to turn their shock into vigor.
Hoorah! 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 Hoorah!
The soldiers piled behind the walking fortress as he pushed toward the undead ranks. Arrows, spells, stones, bones, and flesh clattered against the ridiculously heavy shield like raindrops on a window. The regular-sized folk thanked their respective deities that Bjorn and his comrades were on their side. Not only were their immense size and strength deeply appreciated, but their hopeful and positive attitude in the face of dire straits helped uplift and maintain the grunt's spirits. Uh-oh. All right, so Gisli, let's see. I don't think Gisli's been in the series yet. This is a new character. All right, let's see. Ah, 15 Zeros, of course. 15 Zeros is the author. Derp. I should have guessed. Okay. Let's see here. I was going to ask something. Gisli. Right. Gisli. Risha. Okay. So Gisli's a new character, but Neven hasn't said anything about whether he's important or not. What's up, Nicholas Granger and Zeo Khan? Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. I guess I can play Gisli.
Whee!
Another giant roared with laughter further down the front line. Dozens of ghouls were sent flying every time he swung that tree-sized totem of his. He was mostly bare-chested, showing off the colored mustache. Nope. Colorful shamanistic tattoos. He was mostly bare-chested, showing off the colorful shamanistic tattoos covering his entire upper body. His thick brown hair, beard, and mustache were styled in rope-like braids that swung around wildly whenever he moved, which was all the time. The seemingly endless tide of undead meant the giant had to constantly stay on his toes lest he get buried under an avalanche of flesh. Noticing a particularly dense group of foes approaching, he slammed his simplistic weapon into the barren ground.
Sunder soil!
The gnarled inscriptions along the totem's length let out a dull green light as he channeled his magic through it. The ground groaned, heaved, cracked, and then suddenly split open to swallow and bury his targets. Isn't Bjorn the giant, though? The one that's from Skaft? Oh. That's Orin. Okay. I need to leave a note then for Justin on that one. All right, and Jessica, what do you say? What do you say? We give you another character, a gnome. Nicholas Granger says, "Hey Jeff, been flying through your stuff lately. Thank you."
Watch it, Gisley!
Let's see. I know it. Okay. I forgot to leave a note for Jessica in the last set. Oh, no, I didn't. on.
Apologies, tiny one,
he bellowed back.
The land is sick. It resists my commands.
This is why I hate you naturalist types,
She grumbled.
You wouldn't know mana control if it walked up to you and bit you on the nose.
The little pyromancer looked up to see another boulder of rotting flesh about to hit the platoon behind Gisli. She demonstrated some of what she was saying by intercepting the projectile with a well-placed fireball. While her spell wasn't powerful enough to incinerate it outright, it knocked it off course so that it landed between the Inquisition's... While her spell wasn't powerful enough to incinerate it outright, it knocked it off course so that it landed between the Inquisition's formations rather than on top of them. She turned her attention back to the ground where a bunch of howling zombies were trying to run past Gisli's legs. Fuck. She turned her attention back to the ground where a bunch of howling zombies were trying to run past Gisli's legs. All right. Tiny pyromancer. Ooh, you're listening to Chaos of the Covenant, Nicholas Granger? Please, if you stop by again after you've listened to it, tell me what you think. I missed that series. That was so good. At least I loved it.
Hope you were paying attention yesterday.
Ah, you're all the way at book 6. You got one more then, right? I fucking remember that character, the little sloth guy. Okay.
Fireball!
Gant, that's right. Gant. What's up, Pachico Benito? Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoy yourself. That was the only warning she gave her ride before a wave of magical flames enveloped both the undead and the giant's lower body. Gisli grit his teeth and steeled himself for the pain, but it was surprisingly mild. Though he had forgotten in the heat of the moment, he had indeed heeded the pint-sized pyromancer's earlier warning to wear fireproof pants and emerged from the blaze mostly unscathed. He had to admit, having this snarky flamethrower on his shoulder was a far more effective combat strategy than he thought it would be. He feared he would throw her off with how much he usually moved around, yet this tiny woman called Ginny... Okay, it's supposed to be Ginny. Damn it. Okay, I don't think I've said her name before, have I? Nope. Okay, Ginny. Gonna have to fix that. Any suggestions on the next series to jump in after Covenant is done? Yes. So if you haven't already, come check out the Sound Booth app. That's my company's audiobook distribution platform. And check out The Legend of Zero by Sarah King. It's another basically space opera about a first encounter, but it basically what happens is the Earth gets invaded by aliens, and those aliens conscript all the 5 to 12-year-olds on the planet and puts them in their intergalactic army so they can go kill shit. It's fucked up, and it's really good. Pachico Benito says, deployed right now, and these stories keep me sane. Dude, I'm so glad to help you out with that. Thank you for your service. All right. Nice. Yes, and please spread the word about our platform. Mateos 009, thanks for coming. Good to see you. Eddie Sengi? Good to see you too. Thanks for coming. He feared he would throw her off with how much he usually moved around, yet this tiny woman called Ginny... He feared he would throw her off with how much he usually moved around, yet this tiny woman called Ginny Sparklight remained firmly attached to him while maintaining pinpoint accuracy with her spells. Gisli knew gnomes had a penchant for precision, yet was constantly surprised and impressed by his new companion's proficiency. Most important of all, it was immensely reassuring to have her watch his wide back. He roared with laughter once again.
This must be how two-headed ogres feel.
Focus, Gisli! Some of your old friends are incoming!
Aye!
The man's bright smile faltered.
I see them.
It was the first time Ginny had ever seen anything put a damper on the giant's mood. But she understood. The 3 lumbering figures running at them were a species of undead called Jotun. That's how you pronounce it, right? Jotun? Jotun. is what Google says. I don't think so. That's what I thought. Jotun. Hey, Nicholas Granger. For sure, got my buddy to install it already. Thank you! Mateos, thank you for coming. Any news on DCC Season 2? No official news. It's just, we're just still working on it, and we're releasing this year. You planning to do the books back-to-back? Are you talking about ELLC? Because if so, unfortunately, no. But I will be getting back to it later this year at the very least. So. Jotun, where is that? They were ancient giants who died exploring northern Persepia? They were ancient giants who died exploring northern Persepia's frozen wastes, only to be raised from their icy tombs by the Bone Shaper's vile magic. The creatures were formidable warriors who commanded the same unforgiving cold that had claimed their lives centuries ago. They also served as a grim reminder of the fate that had befallen the giants' homeland, and Gisli couldn't help but feel shaken. No living thing wanted to see the twisted, shambling corpses of their own kind walking around, let alone trying to kill them. The giant shaman felt it was his responsibility to liberate his dead ancestors from the blight's wretched grasp. The giant shaman felt it was his responsibility to liberate his dead ancestors from the blight's wretched grasp, so he stepped forward to challenge the Jotun trio despite Ginny's protests. Taking on 3 of those things at once wasn't necessarily suicidal, but it was pretty damn close. A streak of golden light suddenly appeared overhead and darted ahead of Gisli just as he was about to do something incredibly stupid. He only caught a glimpse of the radiant figure, an angel draped in white and gold robes. He only caught a glimpse of the radiant figure, an angel draped in white and gold robes of purity and piety, the Inquisition's eye upon her chest, and a golden halo over her hooded face. He only caught a glimpse of the radiant figure. An angel draped in white and gold robes of purity and piety, the Inquisition's eye upon her chest, and a golden halo over her hooded face. With a single beat of her ethereal wings, the angel charged straight at the trio of Jotun. The towering zombies swung their frozen clubs upwards, launching an avalanche of icy spikes that threatened to swallow and drown the holy eyesore. She broke through the barrage like a stone through glass, the barrier of her Aegis spell easily fending off the unfocused attack. Okay, so this is marked as Ginny, but it shouldn't be her, should it? No, it should be... I mean, this sounds like Teresa. Oh, Gux is here. Nice. Oh, it's just an unnamed Ranker priestess. Okay. I'll give that to Jessica, since we're bringing her in anyway.
Symbol of purity!
The angelic priestess activated her ultimate with a commanding shout. The angelic priestess activated her ultimate with a commanding shout, causing a flower-like sigil of golden light the size of a barn to manifest around her. It lingered for a moment before bursting into countless radiant petals that rained down on the undead, reducing all of them, Jotun included, to dust. The angel darted off to another part of the battlefield, eager to purge more of the vile heresies besieging her allies. Gisli and Ginny could do little but stare, awestruck and slack-jawed, as she proceeded to deliver Teresa's judgment upon another towering wretch. Naturally, the giant gnome duo weren't the only ones watching. Okay, so Alistair is new. Let's see. Who do I want to cast for this one? Maybe I'll just do it myself. Let's keep it.
I don't have many of those frosty boys left. I don't have many of those frosty boys left.
Several kilometers away, a certain man stood by his lonesome. He had chalk-gray skin, glowing purple eyes, and ghostly white hair parted by a pair of elfin ears. A luxurious-looking coat the color of dried blood covered his otherwise bare torso, its rigid collar tall enough to conceal the lower half of his face. A matching skirt-like garment obscured his lower body, and his clawed fingers gripped a foul-looking staff of polished bone and preserved... A matching skirt-like garment obscured his lower body, and his clawed fingers gripped a foul-looking staff of polished bone and preserved sinew. All right, so let's do this.
I suppose it doesn't matter in the end. Those fools may win the fight. I suppose it doesn't matter in the end. Those fools may win the fight, but they won't win this war.
Great. Thanks, Nicholas Granger. Appreciate all the support. This wasn't the first occasion where the Inquisition forces dispatched to Velos had... This wasn't the first occasion where the Inquisition forces dispatched to Velos had clashed against its... This wasn't the first occasion where the Inquisition forces dispatched to Velos had clashed against his undead armies, nor would it be the last. As a blight lord, Alistair could easily raise an army or 6 in a matter of days. He just needed sufficient raw material to work with, and that was hardly a concern. Life on Velos was stubborn, virulent, and viral, ensuring that Alistair... Life on Velos was stubborn, virulent, and viral, ensuring that Alistair had a constant stream of recruits. Though by no means a match for the infamous Bone Shaper, he shared many of the same gifts as the original Blight Lord. As his species name suggested, he could conjure, control, and manipulate the undead plague with ease. He didn't need to invest his MP into producing minions like a necromancer, though he certainly could if he wanted to. It was simply far more efficient to contaminate an area with blight and then seize control of the monstrosities and aberrations that rose from it. Unfortunately for Alistair, this passive yet efficient approach would never produce the critical mass necessary to begin his conquest in earnest. Living things tended to run from a blighted area due to those bothersome survival instincts of theirs. The disease also moved quite slowly after he seeded an area, so only those caught in the initial wave of blight could... The disease also moved quite slowly after he seeded an area, so only those caught in the initial wave of blight would succumb to it, and since his blight dispersal skill had a range of only 300 meters, getting tens of thousands of bodies caught up in that had proven understandably difficult. Furthermore, the quality of the carcasses normally left behind was quite poor, since only weaklings failed to escape the initial blight cloud in time. That was the downside of trying to set up shop on a continent teeming with life. Too much squirming. Realistically speaking, Alistair would never make much progress on Velos unless he gathered enough death to produce a... Realistically speaking, Alistair would never make much progress on Velos unless he gathered enough death to produce a plague belcher. The unliving tower of flesh would allow him to expand the blight's influence exponentially until it swallowed up even this verdant expanse. Getting that snowball rolling was why he covertly incited, directed, and assisted Gutstompa's orcish invasion. His plan was to have the greenskins and raptors kill each other until they produced a veritable mountain of corpses, then arrange for the orc warlord and Axel's bothersome martyr to take each other out. It had all gone swimmingly, and Alistair got his much-desired plague belcher, only to immediately lose it to some rogue variable. To make matters worse, he'd shown his hand, and now an entire heavenly-backed coalition was after him. He needed to bleed out the Inquisition and their adventurer supporters, and that required he use some of the special undead he brought over from the Blighted Lands. Since he wasn't exactly on speaking terms with his old boss anymore, he would not be getting reinforcements and had no way to recover their loss. That angel wiped out so many of his frosty boys before they could inflict any meaningful damage stung quite a bit. That angel wiping out so many of his frosty boys before they could inflict any meaningful damage stung quite a bit. Alistair nevertheless felt adamant he'd win in the long run. Even if his most powerful units were quite limited in number, the living were even more restricted in the forces they could field. As powerful as these As powerful as those angels were, they were too few in number to change the course of a full-scale war. The rank-and-file soldiers were far more important in terms of overall military strength, and replacing those took time, resources, and willing volunteers, while the Blight Lord could mass-produce fodder with impunity. Not just from the overflowing wildlife, but also from the ranks of the Inquisition's fallen. While the living struggled with attrition, the undead war machine thrived on it. The grim reality of this unholy incursion was that it could not be stopped conventionally. The living's only hope for victory was to cut it off at the head. None understood this better than Alistair, which was why he never once stopped. None understood this better than Alistair, which was why he never once stepped. None understood this better than Alistair, which was why he never once stepped foot on anything even remotely resembling a battlefield. Having obtained and mastered the Lightbinder job from his lengthy stay in the giant's desecrated homeland, he could observe and direct his armies from afar. He also shrouded himself with layers of obfuscating illusory magic and defensive barriers while suppressing the copious amount of blight his body normally emitted. He also shrouded himself with layers of obfuscating illusory magic and defensive barriers while suppressing the copious amount of blight his body normally emitted. He was a phantom that orchestrated one massacre after the next, always watching anonymously from the sidelines. Alistair wasn't conceited and thinking himself nigh impossible to track down. He had, however, severely underestimated the resourcefulness of those burdened with the title of hero. The Blight Lord was so focused on his clairvoyance magic that he failed to notice a gate spell open above and behind him. He definitely realized he'd been found when something smashed into his outermost defensive layer, cracking its invisible... Damn it. He definitely realized he'd been found when something smashed into his outermost defensive layer, cracking its invisible barrier. Alistair's consciousness snapped back to his surroundings, and he looked up to see none other than the embodiment of justice, the hero of the hammer, the Grand Inquisitor himself, Sigmund Law. A man whose sanctified holy armor, inscribed two-handed mace, radiant aura, furrowed brows, and glinting scalp made it abundantly clear he was not here by chance or coincidence. There we go. What's up, the Matt Henry? Good to see you. Thanks for coming and hanging out. This will not cost extra because of the boxing tax, but we may do boxing taxes on Sound Booth. We'll see. How long does it take to record a 15-hour book, I imagine you're asking? Well, this one, if it were 15 hours, would take me 45 hours. So it's been about 3 hours per finished hour because of all the casting and all the sound effects notes and stuff that I'm taking. Otherwise, it would take something like, I don't know, 22 hours. Taste the wrath.
Taste the wrath of the goddess, villain!
The paladin declared.
Justice from above! Justice from above! Taste the wrath of the goddess, villain! Justice from above!
A torrent of divine energy fell upon the Blight Lord as a waterfall of white light, its overwhelming force instantly demolishing all magical defenses. The mastermind behind the largest orc uprising in history didn't even get a chance to speak before his body was obliterated. When the effects of Sigmund's most powerful skill dissipated, the only thing left was a crumbling statue of salt in Alistair's image and a rather interesting damage notification. Your target has been thoroughly purified. Target HP minus 31,536. Justice from above grew in power in direct proportion to how evil and beyond redemption the skill's wielder seemed that... Justice from above grew in power in direct proportion to how evil and beyond redemption the skill's wielder deemed their target to be and how powerful that conviction was, which, considering Alistair was the most despicable, deceitful, and blasphemous existence Sigmund had ever known, fucking hell. Which, considering Alistair was the most despicable, deceitful, and blasphemous existence Sigmund had ever known, meant the Blight Lord was instantly obliterated. Having an ability like that was straight-up cheating, no matter how one looked at it. Yet, the human paladin did not relax his guard. His gut told him this wouldn't end so easily. Things never did. His hunch was proven true before the proverbial dust had a chance to settle. Mere moments later, the elf-like statue of Salt burst to reveal a perfectly unharmed Blight Lord. With the villain's defenses down, Sigmund wasted no time in charging at him head-on, determined to put hammer to face with all haste. Unfortunately, he was not faster than Alistair's next move.
Grasp of the Undying!
Thrusting his palm forward in a pushing motion, the undead commander paused a massive Thrusting his palm forward in a pushing motion, the undead commander caused a massive skeletal hand to burst from the withered soil at his feet. The paladin swung his divinity-radiating weapon at the colossal limb before it could wrap its fingers around him. He shattered its hand, but the broken wrist still hit him in the chest like a battering ram, throwing him back. He tumbled across the ground, managing to get to his feet as he skid to a halt. When Sigmund turned his gaze back toward his opponent, he saw Alistair already retreating through the air. It seemed the Blight Lord would escape the ambush unharmed, as non-ranker paladins couldn't fly and were rather limited in their long-ranged attack options. However, Sigmund was just the vanguard.
Kinetic Slam!
An invisible wave of force crashed against the fleeing undead, sending him face first into the dirt with so much force that the hero of the hammer felt the ground tremble. Nope, that's supposed to be Gux.
Kinetic Slam!
Took your sweet time getting here. The bald man grumbled.
Apologies. Gux needed time to tie his shoelaces.
All right, guys, I'm going to have to stop right here. I have a meeting here in 1 minute. But thanks for coming and hanging out. I will get back to narrating TOL-SAROTH on Monday, and I will have at least one more cold read. So thank you for coming and hanging out. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Come back at noon Central on Monday to watch another cold read. All right. Don't forget to visit soundbooth.app. Pick up our new app on iOS and Android, and pick up more stuff from Neven Iliev that you haven't listened to. The Stars Have Eyes and Small Chests Are Fine Too, both available. All right. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you later.